Welcome to the Pretty Deadly Podcast. I'm Susie Collick, the founder of Pretty Deadly Self-Defense, a self-defense program for women I developed based on my experiences as a violent crime survivor and my 23 years of training in the Japanese art of ninjutsu. I'm going to dive right in and in this episode talk about targets in self-defense. But before I go on, did you know that you can buy a Pretty Deadly gift card for your favorite badass? If there is a person in your life that you want to celebrate with the ultimate in badassery, give them a Pretty Deadly gift card and show them just how much you care. It's the perfect stocking stuffer. It's a great little surprise under the tree and is a very original Secret Santa gift, if I do say so myself. You can find Pretty Deadly gift cards at our shop at prettydeadlyselfdefense.com/shop. Back to our episode. Okay, so targets in self-defense. What are we really aiming for? There's a lot of videos on YouTube for self-defense that are teaching people to aim for the throat or the eyes or the nose or the groin. Those are always favorite targets in self-defense training. And while targets are really important in martial arts training, especially in competitive martial arts training where precision is key, targets in self-defense training are a whole different ball of wax. Because in a real life situation, everything is in movement and everything is in chaos. And when you really think about it, eyes, nose, throat, groin are relatively small targets. You need to have pretty good aim to get them in the best of times. But in a real life situation where everything is in movement and everything is in chaos, they become small moving targets, which is almost impossible to hit unless you are a trained sniper. And yes, you can actually train to hit those in a real life chaotic situation, but only with years and years and years of training. And most women, when they want to learn self-defense, are not interested in years and years and years of training. They're interested in learning a couple of techniques they know they can rely on so they can just get on with their day. Some of the targets that people are encouraged to go for come with a certain amount of mythology and legend around them. One is pressing your thumbs into someone's eyes. This is really hard to do. It's really hard to do because eyes are really squishy and gross, and you have to get over your own gag reflex in order to do that. And granted, in a real life situation, maybe you're able to do that. Maybe that's what's going to come out of your body, and that's fantastic if that's what happens. But we can't really count on it. And there's a lot of things at play in our human bodies and our human consciences and subconsciouses, even when we're defending ourselves. Another favorite target is the nose. Slamming the palm of your hand into somebody's nose, slamming it up at a 45-degree angle is a refinement of that, if we can call it that. That usually comes with the warning that you have to be very careful because you can shatter someone's nose and send the shards of their shattered nose up into the brain and kill them instantly. This is completely false. 100% absolutely impossible. Why? Because the tip of your nose that you would hit with the palm of your hand, of everybody's nose, is made of cartilage. It's not bone. In fact, the bone of your nose is much farther back and therefore a little bit harder to break, and you cannot send it up into your brain. That's not how anatomy works. Hitting the throat, again, is a common technique that people are taught, but it's also a relatively unreliable technique. Hitting the Adam's apple can hurt and it can crush if you hit hard enough, but is that really going to stop somebody? One of the things I think that gets overlooked a lot in teaching self-defense techniques is the attacker. And I know that's going to sound kind of controversial when I say it, but the fact of the matter is because you're there, of course, defending against an attacker. But what gets overlooked about this attacker is that attacker is pumped full of adrenaline, and adrenaline dulls pain. It also makes you stronger and faster, which is super cool, but it dulls pain. So there's no guarantee that an attacker is going to feel any of these strikes anyway. Crushing somebody's Adam's apple at the front of their throat won't necessarily asphyxiate them. When you want to asphyxiate someone or cut off their breath or crush their throat, it actually needs to be to the side, which again is a more precision target and harder to hit in a chaotic situation. Hitting the groin seems like a really good idea because any man will tell you, or any person with male genitals will tell you, that getting kicked or struck really hard in the groin will make a person drop, that it's incredibly painful. And I don't doubt that at all. However, again, if you are in a real situation and somebody is pumped up on adrenaline, they might not feel that pain because people often carry a sense of honor about their family jewels. So going for the groin can sometimes make matters worse. But we've also seen professional sports players take a shot to the groin, stay down for 10 seconds, jump up, shake it off, and get back in the game. Granted, they're probably wearing cups, but who's to say that an attacker isn't wearing a cup? I mean, it seems like kind of an obvious investment if that's how you're going to spend your time anyway. I mean, I don't know, but still. These false beliefs around targets and the damage that they can potentially do is ultimately damaging to people taking self-defense classes because it gives them an inaccurate sense of anatomy, of their own power. That's not to take power away from them. It's just very skewed. Because imagine if you are in a situation and what you've learned is to slam your hand into somebody's nose and it doesn't break and it doesn't even bleed. And the shards of the broken skull do not go up into the brain and kill that person. Then is that going to make that person feel like they're ineffective? I mean, I think to be realistic, people have done that and they felt empowered and it worked and it's totally okay. I'm not going to tell you that you shouldn't rely on whatever comes out of your body and wherever something lands. But at the same time, I'm also not going to encourage the people in pretty deadly courses to aim for specific targets. And there's another reason why I say that. I say that because the energy we expend to hit a target is just enough energy to hit that target. It's not to go through that target. So the example that I give in pretty deadly courses is playing darts. When I'm throwing darts at a dartboard, I use just enough energy to get the dart into the dartboard. That's it. My brain already makes that calculation. It transfers that information to my body. I don't really think about it when I throw the dart. I simply throw it, hope it actually gets to the dartboard, and then it sticks. And that's as much energy as I put into it. I don't put in so much energy that my dart penetrates the dartboard, goes through the wall, through the women's bathroom, then the men's bathroom, then out to the alley outside, and then into the neighboring establishment. But that's the kind of energy you actually want in self-defense. So aiming for targets, especially in self-defense, can end up restricting the amount of power that people are actually putting into something without them even really realizing it. And again, I don't think when people are teaching self-defense that they are encouraging people to only hit a target and nowhere else. But I do think that we're not really taking this other subconscious calculation into account when we're talking about targets. So how that translates into real life is in a self-defense class, if somebody is hitting the pad really, really, really hard, that's great. But they might use that same exact force and distance in a real life situation and have absolutely no effect on the person that they're defending themselves against. And then they're going to think, well, that didn't work. Self-defense doesn't work. This was all a waste of time. And that sucks. It sucks not only because that's someone who feels like they didn't get the training they needed, but it also sucks because it helps reinforce the sense of helplessness that a lot of people have regarding gender-based violence. The last thing I'm going to say about targets and why I'm against them is because it encourages people to look for results. In martial arts training, or at least in my martial arts training, that was a principle that was really drilled into our heads. Don't look for the results, just complete your movement. And what I mean by that is if I'm trying to do a throw, right, my goal is to get somebody on the ground. If I'm more focused on getting that person on the ground than I am in sensing their balance and where they're losing it and where I can catch them and how I can leverage that into an actual throw, then I'm going to miss all those little things in between. I also may miss the fact that they're coming at me from another angle with a fist. The action of a throw is the throw. The action of the throw is not the result of the throw, which is the opponent on the ground. So what happens when you remove the targets? Then you focus only on completing the action. You have been listening to the Pretty Deadly podcast. You can learn more about who we are and what we do and how to find a Pretty Deadly course near you by visiting our website at prettydeadlyselfdefense.com. And if you're interested in bringing self-defense to your community, our certification programs are open for enrollment, and you can find our 2024 certification programs are open for enrollment, and you can find them on our website at prettydeadlyselfdefense.com/self-defense trainer, all one word. This podcast is produced by Singe Network for Pretty Deadly, recorded in Berlin, and our original music is the track Icarus Wish by Berlin band Dead Sentries, used with permission of the artists.